The subject of our work this evening is gratitude and love. About the subject of gratitude, it has a meaning far beyond the word gratitude itself, or even any idea connected with gratitude. It goes deep into the reality of being. Gratitude, as we understand it at this level of consciousness, is, of course, an outpouring in appreciation for that which we have received. Gratitude seems to express our appreciation for benefits received. But actually, that is not the truth about gratitude. The truth about gratitude is this: you cannot be grateful, and you cannot be ungrateful. It does not lie within the power of any individual to be grateful or to express gratitude, nor does it lie within the possibility of anyone to withhold gratitude. Gratitude has nothing to do with man. Gratitude is one of the many phases or aspects of love, and love is God. Therefore, gratitude is really a form of God activity or God expression. It is therefore true that only God can express love. Only God can express gratitude. We can only be the vehicles through which God pours itself as love or as gratitude. Let us dwell on this for a little while in its larger sense, because gratitude is closely akin to the subject of supply. How many times have you heard people say, "Oh, I wish this could be 10 times more to give you," or, "If I really were expressing my gratitude as I feel it, this would be $1 million." The point here is that gratitude and supply are kindred subjects. If a person had all the supply they wanted, they might believe they would express their gratitude in greater measure, but this is not necessarily true. Anyone can express their gratitude to the fullest if they understand gratitude in its true sense, and if they express their gratitude with supply to the fullest extent. And they can, if they understand the subject of supply. There is no limit to the gratitude we can express, since gratitude is of God. There is no limit to the love we can express, since love is of God. There is no limit to the supply we can express, even in the form of dollars, since it is of God. The main point that we forget is that God is individual being. God is individual you. And therefore, you have God capacity and nothing less than God capacity. You have no capacity of your own. Jesus said, "I can of my own self do nothing, and why callest thou me good? There is but one good, the Father in heaven." We as individuals have no personal capacities. We have no personal limitations. And we have no personal large amounts in any way, shape, manner, or form. God is infinite, but God is individual being. God is your being. And that is the point that we miss in our treatments, in our healing work, and in our daily living. We continuously set up a selfhood apart from God. Even while in our treatment we declare, "I and the Father are one." We declare, "I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine." And then we say, "I wish this check were bigger." It is not consistent. If we really want to be consistent in our spiritual approach to life and understand that God is my individual being, and we want to express gratitude, assuming that we only have a dollar bill with which to do it at the moment, we do not apologize for that dollar bill, nor do we minimize the dollar bill but we let that dollar bill go forth with all the love that we can feel, all the joy that we can feel, sending it forth with no apology, no explanations, no sense of limitation. Here is, at the present moment, your sense of God capacity. That is all. It has no limitation, and there is no desire to have it increased, because it is the allness of God coming through at this moment. And when you realize that, that makes room for the infinity to manifest itself on greater and greater planes, greater and greater amounts, as the unfoldment continues. Never judge from appearances. Otherwise, you will be limiting your capacity. If you look at your pocketbook, you are judging from appearances. If you even judge of your physical strength, you are judging from appearances, and you are limiting yourself, both to the amount of your bank account and to the amount of your physical strength. Whereas, by looking away and realizing God is individual being, God is individual you. In other words, the mind of God is your mind, and therefore you are limited in intelligence only to the wisdom of the divine mind, nothing less. True, that much wisdom may not seem to be pouring out of you at this particular moment, but that has nothing to do with it. You still must not limit your capacity. Your capacity is God capacity, since God is your mind. You must live eternally, since God is your life. Judge not by appearances. It is possible you might look into a mirror and find that you look 10 or 20 years older than your age. You must not judge by that appearance. You must continue to hold to the truth that you have only the age of God, since God is my life. God is eternally my life, since before Abraham was, God is my life, and God will be my life unto the end of the world. Therefore, my life can know no age, therefore no limitation. Since God is the substance of my being, my supply must be infinite. There's no need to look in your pocketbook or your bank account to see how closely you are approximating that in demonstration. Judge not by appearances. Stand on the truth that since God is the substance of my being, God is infinite, my substance is likewise infinite. Then, if you spend $1, you will think of it as that infinity pouring forth as that dollar, but still the infinity. That makes room for it to become 2 or 20 or 200, but not by limiting, not by judging, but by understanding that God is my substance. God is infinite. Therefore, my substance and my supply is infinite, and in paying out even this $1, you are giving out infinity. In the same way, we translate love, because love has to do with gratitude. Love has to do with supply. Love has to do with caring and protecting. How much love can we express? How foolish it is to say, I wish I could be more loving, or I would like to be more loving. It is fantastic. You cannot be more loving. You cannot be less loving, since God is the only loving you possess. God is infinite. Therefore, you possess infinite love, and infinite love is expressed from you and to you. Love is God, and therefore love is power. And our need is to understand more of the nature of love. Love, in its metaphysical appreciation, has become a mysterious factor, almost one unknown. And it comes to us now to make clear this idea of love. Love is just devotion. Love is devotion. Love is devotion to a person, to a cause, or to a purpose. Love is plain devotion, the devotion that we give to each other. When love is expressed in service, in appreciation, in cooperation, that is divine love itself expressed on our plane of understanding, on our plane of consciousness. Only it is love when that devotion is expressed without thought of a return, without thought of a desire for gratitude or appreciation or recognition. It is in that point that we lose all sense of the meaning of love. There is no such thing as love or devotion that looks for a return. Even the love that we give to our own children isn't really love if we are expecting in return gratitude or appreciation or recognition. There is no love between man and wife when any expression of that love demands a return. Love is that of our own being, of our own nature, that we pour out to each other merely for the sake of the devotion itself, for the joy that it creates in us in loving. It is not love, it is personal sense when it seeks a return. And it is on that point that we know when our love is really divine, when it is being expressed for the purpose of fulfilling our own feelings toward the other person, toward a cause, or toward a purpose. Real love, whether you call it divine or human, real love only begins when desire for something for ourselves begins to drop away. Here we come to the point that wrecks many lives. We believe that there are those who could give us more love. And we believe that there are those who are withholding love from us. That is the fatal error. No one can give us any more love than they are giving, and no one has the power to withhold love. Love is God expressing itself. And God cannot express itself finitely. God cannot express itself in a limited form, or a limited way, or in a limited amount. The error has been that you are looking to a person for love, and the person does not have love to give. Love is of God. In fact, love is God. In fact, God is love. If you look to a person for love, you will often find in place of love hate. Or you will find a love that turns to hate or to indifference. The error then is not the other person's. The error is not on the part of those who withhold love or seem to withhold it. The error is on our part in expecting love from a person or in condemning them for withholding love. They cannot withhold what is not theirs. They cannot give what is not theirs. Love is of God. The moment we turn our thought from the idea that a person can give or withhold love, we find love pouring itself out to us in infinite abundance. Although not always from those we have been expecting it from, or not always from those from whom we have the right to expect it. It does not lie within our ability to change people in their demonstration. All we can do is change our demonstration. If we are not receiving enough love in the world, let us stop looking to persons for it and look to God for it, and it will appear. Not always through the person that you expect it from, that is true. That is one of the things that we must learn, that it is not up to us to determine from what direction love is to come, since love must come from God. It is the same with gratitude. The greatest mistake in the world in the spiritual ministry is to look to patients and students for gratitude. That way lies heartbreak. Truly, that way, if any teacher is looking to their patients or students for gratitude, they are going to know many, many heartbreaks, because at the most unusual times and from the most unusual people, ingratitude comes and tames. But the practitioner or the teacher who has learned the wisdom of God as love looks to God to express itself even in what we call gratitude, sharing. And as we keep the vision on God as the source of our supply, on God even as the source of gratitude that must come to us, gratitude comes. Not always from those who should be giving the most of it, but it comes. Who are we to judge who the channel should be, or the vehicle, or the avenue today or tomorrow? Sufficient for us, if we are experiencing the love of God made manifest as gratitude, the love of God made manifest as sharing, cooperation, joy, the love of God made manifest as love, without trying to determine who, when, or how much. Healing work will be simple once you begin to realize that God is individual being, and no person has the capacity to be sick. No person has the capacity to be sick or to be well. God is the one divine life, the only life, and it is individual life, your life. And because it is God, it has no capacity to be sick, it has no capacity to be weak. Therefore, as we learn to keep our vision on God as individual being, as your being, you will find nothing in your being that defileth or maketh a lie. Again, we must not judge by appearances. At this present moment, all of us in appearance are showing forth some phase of discord, inharmony, ill health, lack. But the reason is that we have not fully realized God as individual being. We still have a selfhood apart from God. As long as we look to someone out there for love, gratitude, supply, we have not realized that God is our own individual being. Now, we have no right to look out there for love or gratitude or supply. We must only look to God, the God of our own being, not out there, not in our homes, only to the God of our own being. Then let it come through whom it will, or from whatever direction it will. If we look to the God of your being, we might look amiss. We should look to the God of our own being. God is individual being. God is your individual being. Therefore, God is pouring its love to you, through you, as you, out into the world. And that is true of every individual. Then why, as long as you have God, and the kingdom of God is within you, as long as you have the entire kingdom of God within you, pouring itself forth as love, as joy, companionship, supply, gratitude, why should you be looking out there for it? And as long as you do not look out there for it, or to somebody out there, or many somebodies, these will be the vehicles or avenues bringing it to your door. But looking out there for it is the error. God is individual being. If you look to a practitioner or teacher for healing, even when asking them for it, you look amiss. It is right to ask the practitioner or the teacher for help, but it is also right to understand that that help is coming from the God of your own being, from the kingdom of God within you. Every experience to you in your life, whether it comes to you as love, whether it comes to you as supply, or gratitude, or success, or health, is your own consciousness of truth unfolding. Irregardless of whom it seems to come through, it may be husband or wife or other relative, parent, child, it is your own consciousness of truth unfolding. The moment you realize God as individual being, the moment you realize God as your individual being, the infinity of good must unfold from within you, through you, to the world. Nothing less than infinity. Then you never have to apologize because you never lack. You never have an insufficiency, whether it is of strength, whether it is of healing power, whether it is of understanding, gratitude, or supply. You cannot have an insufficiency if the source of it is God. That makes the source of it infinite. When you personalize it and set up a selfhood apart from God, then when you are called on to feed 4,000, 5,000, and women and children too, you cannot do it. You say you do not have that many farms or storehouses or barns. You do not have that many bonds or bank accounts. You have set up this personal selfhood and expect it to meet the demands that are made upon you. You might just as well be a practitioner and have people come to you, 100 of them, with diseases, and then say, oh, I couldn't heal 100 people of all these diseases. Certainly you could not. Of course you couldn't, of yourself. You have nothing to do with it. But in the understanding of God as the real law of being, you have the capacity of God to do the healing, and you heal the multitude. You might be called upon any time in the near future to feed many hundreds of people. You never know what lies just around the corner in our human history today. You may be called upon to heal many thousands of people, and wonder where this is all coming from. It is going to come from God through you. Once you realize God is your individual being, and every demand made upon you can be fulfilled. No demand ever can be made upon you for love, joy, gratitude, or supply that you cannot fulfill. Since it is not of you, it is of God. And if necessary, there will be a multiplication of loaves and fishes. You won't multiply them any more than Jesus did. God will. Jesus looked up to the Father, and the loaves and the fishes were multiplied. In other words, Jesus recognized, I can in my own self do nothing, but the Father within me multiplies the loaves and fishes and even produces gold in the fish's mouth. When you realize God to be your capacity, you have infinite capacity. Then, despite appearances, never apologize, never explain, just hold to the truth of being. Never apologize for a limitation. Never apologize for a lack of demonstration. No one has the right, at this particular stage of unfoldment, to expect any of us to be the full Christ head. It is an utter impossibility. Any of us may achieve it today or tomorrow, and there may be some among us who have achieved it, but they are not known to the public at large. However, we may be assured of this. We have achieved a wonderful measure of it in this truth work and in our understanding, and regardless of what inharmony or discord comes up to us today, we have a wonderful thing with which to meet it. What is this wonderful thing? The realization of God as individual being, the realization of God as our capacity. As we continue to progress in that unfoldment and gain greater and greater realizations of it, we will show forth greater and greater demonstrations of it. Only, however, if we can begin with a principle. We must know what the principle is, and the principle begins with the word God. Not God separate and apart from you, not you separate and apart from God, but God as your individual being. The divine mind as your individual mind, the one infinite life as your individual life, the one divine substance as the substance even of your body, of your being, of your business, of all that concerns you. This understanding of oneness, accepted even intellectually, begins to be the foundation of the spiritual apprehension of the idea. And it is the spiritual discernment that results in demonstration. Often we need this letter, this correct letter of truth, for our foundation. We must know what the principle is that we are trying to demonstrate, and the principle is God. God as your individual being, God as your capacity, God as the amount of all that concerns you, God as the amount of your supply, God as the amount of your gratitude, God as the amount of your love. Why should you be limited in expressing love? If it is not you expressing it all, it is God expressing itself. Why should love be limited in its expression to you if you are looking to God to express itself to you as love? As long as you keep looking to God to express itself as love, you must receive the full measure of God love. When you limit it to a person's capacity or to the amount of their bank account, you are lost, you are hopeless. Realize this. In all of our relationships, do not look to each other as though that person could give or withhold. Let us realize this, that we are not looking to a person, but to the Christ of their being and of our being. It is for this reason that at some period in our study, we must make a conscious exercise along this line. Call it a discipline, if you will. At some period, we must agree that everyone we meet in the course of the day is Christ. As we get up in the morning and greet members of our family, we do not dwell on personalities by liking this one and disliking that one and finding fault with another one, but rather secretly, inwardly, greet each one as the Christ. As we leave home and go to the market or the stores or business, everyone we meet, we must consciously recognize as the Christ. The Christ of you greets the Christ of them. The Christ of you loves the Christ of them. The Christ of them loves the Christ of you. In our Christhood, we are one. We are not looking at appearances now. We are not thinking of male or female. We are not thinking of what we must give or what we shall receive. We are thinking only of true identity. Are we expecting even courtesy from store people? We have no right to, because they do not have it to give. They do not have it to withhold. Only the Christ expresses itself as courtesy. Therefore, we should look to the Christ of each one and not to the outer. Otherwise, it would be as if we were looking at a cluster of electric lights and expecting the light from the bulbs. The light is not there at all. The light is an emanation of the electricity. If we were to limit ourselves by looking to the bulb, sooner or later we would be disappointed, as the bulb would burn out and we would be without light. But as long as we are looking to the electricity, we will have light, even if we have to produce a new bulb. So with us, if we are looking to God for love, we will always have it. But if we are looking to persons, they may burn out here or there, or they may turn to hate, indifference, ingratitude. But if we are looking to God, whatever happens out here in this scene will make no difference. This one will get washed away. That one will get washed away. This one will turn away. Judas will betray. Peter will deny. Thomas will doubt. But it will make no difference. We expected nothing of Judas. We expected nothing of Peter. We expected nothing of Thomas. All we expected was of God. What happens to Judas? He commits suicide. And a 12th one is appointed to take his place. The work goes right on. The love goes right on. The ministry goes right on because the minister, God, is there. What happens to Judas? Who cares? What happens to those who betray, slander, defame, or are ungrateful? Who cares? They are living in accord with the law of, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. That is not your demonstration. That is theirs. We too are living in accord with the law of, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. If you sow to God as the source of your good, you will reap infinite, eternal good, irregardless of what happens to all the people in your experience. Scripture says, even when my mother and father forsake me, thou wilt be the same. It is possible for mothers and fathers to forsake children. And certainly we know it is possible for children to forsake parents. And so we have no right to look to mother or father or children. Our looking, our sowing should always be to God. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap spiritual good. And if you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. If you sow, if you expect your good from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, sooner or later you must meet with Judas, with doubting Thomas, with the denying Peter. As a matter of fact, even if you do not have that happen, you will have all 12 disciples go to sleep on you. It is not always downright evil that betrays us. It is just something like that, going to sleep on the job. When we look to person, place, or thing for gratitude, for supply, for love, for companionship, anything that happened to Jesus through his disciples can happen to us through those to whom we look. That is the lesson Jesus gave us through the disciples. Each served their purpose temporarily, but not one of them endured. But Jesus' life principle endured, because even without the 12 disciples, he still walked out of the tomb and walked out in his own body, the same body that had been wounded. His principle did not betray him, nor did his principle forsake him. Even if it were true that he had spoken those words, "Why hast thou forsaken me?" we know right well that that was a temporary disappointment coming on top of the disciples' betrayal or disappointment. But he quickly realized his principle had not forsaken him because he walked out of that tomb. And so with us, God is individual being, and since God is love, love is infinite in being. Therefore, you can know nothing less than an infinity of love. God is mind, but God is divine mind. Therefore, you can know nothing less than an infinity of wisdom, intelligence, guidance, direction. God is substance. Therefore, you can know nothing less than infinite substance, and so on through every synonym of God. When you catch the idea of God as individual being, you will solve all the problems of so-called human existence. Then you will find that gratitude is not something that you can give or withhold. It is something that God expresses through you. When you try to limit it or even to increase it, you are getting in the way of God's activity. Now we come to the ultimate of this subject, which began with just gratitude. Did you notice that when Jesus walked out of the tomb, it was with the same body that had been crucified, that it had the wounds still in it? The moment you understand God as individual being, God as the substance of all form, you will understand that your body is spiritual, and that your body is just as infinite and just as eternal as your gratitude, as your supply, as your love. Your body does not differ from your love. Your body does not differ from your supply or your gratitude or your benevolence or your cooperation, or your sharing, or your wisdom. Your body is as infinite and as eternal as God, since God is the substance thereof. God is the substance of which your body is formed. Therefore, should you, for one reason or another, through ignorance or desire, should you experience what we know as death, or transition, or passing on, it makes no difference what name you use. A rose by any other name would be just as sweet. Should you ever experience death, you will find just what Jesus demonstrated, that you have not left the body here for burial or for cremation. You have taken your body with you, and all its wounds with it too. The form of your body will change in proportion to your ascending consciousness of truth. Jesus knew that his body was eternal. He knew that it was immortal. He knew that for that reason, the crucifixion could not destroy his life or his body. Jesus knew better than the Hindus, who believe that life is spirit, life is God, life is eternal, but that it inhabits a material body. Jesus knew there was only one creator, and that creator was God or spirit, and therefore it could not create a material body. He also knew the book of Genesis. If God did not create anything, it was not made. So if God did not create a material body, there is no material body. If God is infinite spirit and made this world in its own image and likeness, then the body that God made must be spirit. It must be spiritual. It must partake of the nature and character of spirit. Had Jesus returned from the tomb without that body, he would not have proven immortality. He would not have proven God as the substance of all form, as the creator of the universe out of its own being. Since God is individual being, and God is your mind and your life, God is the substance of your body, and your body is as infinite and eternal and omnipresent as the body of God, as the substance or life of God. The moment you accept that intellectually, you begin ultimately to discern it spiritually. And then you will demonstrate that the body has no power to age, lose its vitality, or die. Your body becomes as immortal as your own idea of truth. If you acknowledge, I am the truth, you must acknowledge, my body is the body of truth. Scripture says your body is the temple of God. We are not judging by appearances. We are taking truth as it is. The truth is that God is the substance of which this world was formed. Whether the world appears as earth, trees, sky, sun, moon, stars, or whether it appears as your body, it still is of the substance and of the activity of God, and it is infinite, immortal, eternal, omnipresent, and if God cannot change, neither can the body change. If God cannot age, neither can God appearing as body change. Therefore the body is immortal and eternal, and unless you understand that from the resurrection of the Master, you have lost the main point. There are two reasons why it is necessary that we understand this. It is senseless for us to go on as truth students, as students of the infinite way, claiming to know something and to have something, and yet go on being just as sick as other people, and just as old as other people, and just as decrepit as other people. It is simply nonsensical to be a truth student and to claim an understanding and demonstration of truth, and to keep on having the same diseases and the same accidents and the same everything else that other people have. Come out and be separate, we are told. And we must come out and be separate, not in just claiming that we have demonstrated the fullness of the Christhood, no, but at least in claiming a progressive unfoldment of Christhood, so that every year at least we should show forth a little bit more of the Christ than the year before, not only in our loving kindness or understanding to each other, not only in our greater charity to each other, but why not in our physical appearance? Why should we claim that each year we are more loving, more kind, more just, but also that each year we are older, weaker? It is not consistent. It is necessary that in the study of the infinite way, we understand God as infinite love, and therefore that we must show forth more love, more justice, more kindness, more peace to each other. This is true. But let us not stop there and separate the body from our spiritual demonstration. Let us bring the body into line with our spiritual demonstration, and let us show forth more of the God body each year. Let us show forth a higher concept of the real body so that we can bring our whole demonstration into line. This point naturally follows. There is not a spiritual universe and a material universe. There is not something good in the world and something bad in the world. There is only one power, there is only one presence, and it is all good. What we are called upon to do is to change our concepts, not change the world. You cannot change your body even by dying, but you can change the appearance of your body by changing your concept of your body. Your body cannot change. It is spiritual, infinite, eternal, harmonious, perfect. Going around making this statement won't help you one bit, and it won't make it so. It is already so. You must come into the realization of it through knowing why it is true. God is individual being, and therefore God must be the substance of individual being and body. God is the very activity of your body. God is the very capacity of your body. How can it be less active tomorrow than today or yesterday if God is the activity and the capacity of it? If God is the activity of your supply, how can your supply be greater one day than another? The fluctuations in supply are merely the result of the belief that you have a supply of your own which can go up and down. The fluctuations in the health and strength of the body come only from the belief that we have a health or a body of our own, instead of realizing God as individual being, God as the substance of being and of body, and then realizing that the only capacity we have is God capacity. This is not only a God capacity for expressing gratitude, but it is also a God capacity for expressing youth, health, vitality, strength, wisdom, and all the other qualities. This is a subject that is so infinite in scope that one could talk about it and write about it forever. Fortunately, some of it is in the writings. Most of it is in the writings, one place or another, where you will be reminded of this fact, that until you come to the realization that this is not a partly spiritual universe and partly material universe, until you come to the realization that it is wholly spiritual and that there is no evil in it, there is no use in trying to fight error or fight evil. Rather agree with your adversary. Rather agree, all right, you may appear to be so, but I'm not going to fight it. I take my stand that God is individual being, and therefore nothing can enter that being that defileth or maketh alive. If temporarily there is an appearance to the contrary, forget the appearance, overlook it, disregard it, and hold steadfast to the truth. God is individual being. You have no life apart from God. No mind, no soul, no body, no capacity apart from God. God is the infinite capacity of your being and of your body. Meditate much on that. Nothing that you can do or think can make this truth. It is true and it is not made true by any effort, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. As we open our consciousness to let God reveal this to us, instead of trying to argue it out, or reason it out, or find reasons why it cannot be or is not, let us forget that battle, the physical battle or the mental battle, and realize this: whatever is true will reveal itself to you from within your own being if you will just open your consciousness to it. If there were a word not true in this message, you would be informed of that too. If only you will not make a mental effort to understand all of this. It is far too deep for the mind to grasp. It is far too high for any human intellect to agree with. It is too spiritually high. You will only be able to understand it through the soul faculties, through your spiritual consciousness. Therefore, open your mind in this wise, that whatever truth is must reveal itself to you, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, for so saith the Lord. And until we meet again, think on these things.